Have you ever been curious on how to give your cows fresh, tall grass year-round? Today I'm going to show you how to do that through rotational grazing. I'll show you what rotational grazing is, the methods we use to implement it on our farm, and what the benefits are of doing so. As you can see, my cows behind me here have ate this area up pretty good, but where I'm standing at, we've got a ton of fresh, tall green grass in front of us. So today we're going to move them, and I'm also going to explain to you what rotational grazing is. So I think the best way to explain rotational grazing is it's the opposite of set stocking. If you're not sure what that is, if your neighbors have cows that they put into a field and they graze that all year round and they never really move out of that field, or if they move them, say, 2 or 3 times a year, that would be called set stocking, where the animals are given a certain area and they're allowed to eat whatever they want as long as they want in that area. What that creates is they'll have a lot of weeds. And in my area, I'm in Southeast Ohio, we have a lot of modifilar rose that'll come up, thistle, different inedible plants to the cattle. They just won't eat those. So the way that we combat that here is we rotationally graze them, which means we give them an area. Some people move their cows multiple times a day. Right now, I don't have the time for that. So what I do is I set mine at a maximum of a week. Usually I try to do it every 3, 4, 5 days, somewhere in there. I try to get them moved. So I give them a space that's big enough that they can clear it out, and then I get them off that ground. And the benefit of this is they won't eat what is in that area, and then they get off of it, so that area has a time to regenerate. If not, what your cattle will do is they will keep eating that grass, and it'll just get shorter and shorter. Just like if you mow your yard and you mow it on the lowest setting all the time, as soon as you stop having rain, your grass is going to die and it's not going to be there. What this does is it promotes a strong living root. As you can see, look at this grass. So when they come through, they'll eat the majority of it, but they'll leave some. One, that helps the grass recover quicker, so I can come back to this grass and give them something to eat faster. But it also helps in case we have a drought or anything like that where the grass wouldn't be in its healthiest condition. It'll allow the grass to flourish because the roots are going to have somewhere to pull nutrients from. If you keep grazing your grass really short, you need to think of the plant not only on the top but also on the bottom. You need to think of your plant not only on the top where we can see the grass, but we also need to think about the bottom where the roots are. So if you continuously have short grass on the top, you're also continuously going to have short roots on the bottom. So the taller you let your grass grow, the more roots you're growing down. They'll get deeper in the soil, which just it's a cycle. The more roots that you have, the more forage and grass you're going to grow, because then as the moisture in the summertime becomes less available, or whenever your dry season may be, the roots are going to dig down further and they're going to have something else to pull from. It's like a savings account. I'm in the grass business, so my job here is to promote the most grass that I can, that's the best quality and is the most available to these animals, so that way when they're out here grazing, they can put on the most weight that they can. A lot of farmers don't see it this way. They just look at the grass as a given, and then they look at the extra inputs like grain and hay as something you have to do. From my business perspective, I wanted to look at how can I promote grass to reduce my costs in the best way possible, and so far rotational grazing seems to be the answer to that. So if you would like to learn how to do that, I'm going to show you a few of the tools that I have. One thing you're going to need, we use plastic post here. I have these fiberglass ones because they're a little bit stiffer, as you can see, versus these ones. They tend to bend a lot, but they're also super lightweight. So they work great for areas like here where you're just running a straight line. But whenever you get to a bend and your fence starts to bow a little bit, that's where I use my fiberglass post. Say that it's bending this way, I will just notch that in there and it'll work like a support post to do that. Also, we run 1 strand of electric wire. Getting into this, that was my biggest concern. I didn't see how I would be able to get my cattle broken to 1 electric wire. But honestly, once you show them electric and they're used to it for a little bit, what I did to do that was I put them in a small area where they had plenty of grass, so they weren't going to be trying to get out. And I have sheep netting, which is basically like woven wire, is what it looks like, but it's electrified. So then they would walk up to that, because my regular fence is also woven wire. So they'd walk slowly up to that fence because they can see it very easily, and then they would feel that electric shock. So then now that they're used to electric and they know not to run up to fences and try to run through them, then when they walk up to this one here, it's the same deal. They see the post and then they can see the line. That's why I always try to keep my posts somewhat close together. That's another tip. Don't space your post out too far with brand new animals. These cows, we've had these 2 mamas for about a month now, and they've done great so far with the electric. It took them about 2 days to get really used to it, and we haven't had any issues since then. With calves, they will run under this one wire system, but the calves are always going to come back to mom. That's their food source. So just like cows want grass, the calves are going to want the milk from their mom. So as long as we give them access to their mom, we don't mind if they run off. Usually they're just hanging out in the shade somewhere. So you take the electric wire and you run that through the notches on these posts, and then they're able to hold it up. You don't need to be super tight because, again, one of the keys to this is you need to have your fence electrified. So with this, I usually have somewhere between 7 and 10,000 volts on it. It doesn't hurt the animals, but if you touch it, it will scare you. You'll make sure you don't do that again, just because it's annoying. It doesn't feel very pleasant. So that way they just get the idea of, hey, don't touch that. And then if you give them plenty of grass on top of that, then you'll never have issues with them trying to get out, because you're providing what they want. Make sure they have shade, water, and something to eat, and the cows are going to be fine as long as they have that deterrence of, hey, my fence tells me I can't go here. They're not going to be trying to push through it. That was an issue I had with cattle previously. When I was set stocking and they would eat all their grass down, then they'd start pushing through my fences, and it felt like I had to build Fort Knox. I had a woven wire fence with 2 strands of barbed wire on top of it, and I still had cattle pushing through it. With this, I have 1 strand of electric wire, and these cattle won't push through it because they have what they want. Isn't that true, sweetie? Yeah. She's getting to the point, though. She wants some of this fresh green grass. She sees it on the other side of the fence. So we're going to get them moved. I'm going to show you how I do that. So follow along with me here. First thing we're going to do is our electric line is on a reel. So our electric line is on a reel. So what that means is I can just walk through the field. I'll show you here in a second. And it'll unwind itself, and then I can roll it back up with a handle. It makes it extremely easy to do so. This is also how we charge it. This is a solar charger. I picked this one up at Rural King. Honestly, they sell them online. They sell them in stores. They seem to all be about the same. You just hook the red up to the fence, and I just use a fence post because it'll set on top of one, and I use that as my grounding rod. A lot of people think you have to use 3 or 4 ground routing systems, and it takes a lot of time to move the portable ones. Honestly, this seems more convenient to me in areas where you don't have the electric. Just use a T-post and set your charger on top of that. Make sure it fits. Some of them won't for some reason. I don't know why they build ones that don't fit on top of a T-post, but they're out there. I've always had to check for that. So that is how we keep the fence hot. And then I also have a tester to use occasionally. Make sure you get a tester. They're like $10. It's worth it just to make sure, especially when you got new cattle, because they will test the fence. Once they've been into it for a while, they won't be bumping up against it. As you can see, they stick their heads under it a little bit just to eat, but these girls, even after a month, they're so used to it, they're not going to test it. We'll walk down through here. I'll show you how much forage we have available to them that we're going to move them to. We're going to move them back here a little bit so they can get into this shaded area. It's warming up quite a bit, so they're going to want some more shade. It's supposed to be in the mid 80s this week. So it's the last week of April. So here in Ohio, that's pretty warm for this time of year. That's usually about our July high is mid 80s. So they're going to need some shade, but you can obviously tell the idea here. Let them clean that up and then put them onto this fresh ground. And as you can see, we got a beautiful pasture here for them. They'll go through this. This will probably take them about a month to get through, unless I decide to speed them up and not let them take as much out of it and just let them knock the tops down. As you can tell, we had, like I said, keeping the fence posts pretty close here, so that way they don't get too far spaced out, because it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to see that wire if the lighting's at the wrong angle. So until they get used to it, I like to make sure I put those posts close enough, because if they see the post, they're going to slow down, because they know. They learn pretty quick. Cattle are intelligent. Even though they're mischievous, they are pretty intelligent. And I got this reel from Premier One. They seem to have very high quality products, so that's where I ordered these posts from, which they sell these posts at pretty much any farm store. But I also got this reel from them as well. So basically what you can do here is you just reel it up whenever you want to and unwind whenever you're building a paddock. And then I just take the strap here and hook it right to the fence. Make sure that it's not touching the metal anywhere around there, because it will still short it out if it is. But that's pretty much how we set it up. So we're going to go ahead and get this moved. I do believe I forgot to turn the fence off, so always going to go double check that before I grab a hold of this wire, because I don't feel like getting shocked today. So I'll catch up with you as soon as I do that. All right, so as you can see there by the time lapse, we were able to get their fence moved. It probably took me 25 minutes, and that was with my reel breaking. For some reason, when they sent it this time, they didn't include the pin for it, so I had to go find a pin and make one. It took me like 5 minutes to do that. So if you take that time out, it took me about 20 minutes, and you can tell how happy these animals are. I've got our Holstein mama here behind us. You may not be able to see them. There's the grass is too tall, but we got their 2 calves. They're Angus cross calves behind my left shoulder, and then I'm not sure the bottle baby. Yeah, he's way back there too with the mama. So our Jersey mom, she's down there. She's a little bit stubborn. She didn't want to walk in with the rest of them, so now she's enjoying the grass after I showed her the way. She kind of has to be coaxed pretty hard to move sometimes, but the other ones have already adapted really well. Once they see that line drop and they see the grass, they go for it. So hopefully they'll get her trained up pretty good, and she'll be following them with the rest of them. But as you can see, for the amount of time it takes, the benefits of it, because as you can see, these calves are sitting here behind me, and the cows, that would be their spot if we let them in here all the time. They'd be sitting in that area all the time, and that grass would be wore down to nothing. And right now they've got plenty of grass in there. Really doesn't take that long. The biggest thing you have to figure out is your water situation, and especially now since it's getting really hot up here. That's something we have to think about, because cows do drink plenty of water. So what we've done is we've actually made a water lane, which is you work the animals through until you get to an area where your water just can't reach any further. So how we do that is with water hoses. I could add more, but right now I just don't feel like it. So what I've done is I've made a little alley so they can get back to that water, but then they can also walk back to the fresh grass. And actually, I'll go through and show you that now. It's pretty simple on how to do it. So part of farming this way with rotational grazing or regenerative ag, they're kind of both in the same vein here, as you use what's available to you. So as you can see, here's where they are. And I made just this little alley. Instead of stopping at this fence so they couldn't come through, I let the line come down through here so they can get into here. The reason I picked this area, as you can see, using what the environment gives us, we have some rock coming out of the ground here. So instead of complaining about it and saying, wow, there's no grass there, well, let's just use this where we give our water. Since that's going to be a high traffic area, there's going to be a lot of water and manure in that area. It keeps it clean and healthy for the animals. And last time, so I do occasionally move the water channel. So last time, this is where they were at. So this is where we had their water. So then we moved them onto this. We'll see. I may leave this longer. I'm not sure. We'll see how it takes that much traffic. If it's tearing it up too much, I might just add more water hoses to it, because you can see my hoses right there. So if I add more to it, plus it's going downhill, it'll have plenty of steam to be able to get down there and fill those up. If you've watched any of my other videos, this is the other field that I've got a couple more, but this is the field I made about my last rotational grazing video. That was back in March, so probably 6 weeks ago now, and maybe 5. And I've grazed it when I brought them through here, and then on that video, and then I grazed it one more time with those new animals, the new cows and the new calves, so they could get used to it. And you can see, for being grazed twice already, we still have plenty of grass in there. My sheep are mowing the yard right now. I didn't feel like mowing, so I put them in the yard to let them mow. And after 1 year, my wife and I were walking through this field earlier, we can already tell a huge difference just in the amount of, this is orchard grass is the base for this, and then there's some clover and other stuff thrown into there. The orchard grass before, from getting mowed, was so clumpy it was hard to walk through. Now everything's kind of grown consistently. The orchard grass is growing much better, and it's also not humping up as much and making it difficult to walk through here. So Anyway, this is how we do our rotational grazing. We love it because it gives us more grass, lets the animals perform better, keeps them healthier. We don't have to use a bunch of dewormers. We don't have to feed them a bunch of hay. They're able to get into some shade. We can control where they are, and it's always easy to tell where your animals are. There's usually no surprises. There you can see the calves. And then we got our bottle baby back there. So we're using these mama cows as nurse cows. They are nursing that bottle calf. And we're looking at maybe getting 1 or 2 more since we've got these 2 mamas. They're making plenty of milk right now. And like I said earlier, we look at this like a savings account with these old paddocks. So we don't take everything that's in here. If we grazed it down to nothing and then we had no grass, or excuse me, we had no rain, we would grow very little grass. There are some areas that got pretty short, but then there's other areas that are pretty long. It's one thing you have to get used to if you're going to rotational graze, is don't get worried about, I know a lot of farmers will tell me you're wasting this. Look at that. You let your grass get stemmy, then they won't eat it, you know, because the cows won't. They don't like seed heads. But I just ask you to look at the amount of grass I have there versus if I let it be as tall as it is in here. You know, if you let your grass grow at all, you're going to get seed heads. So don't worry about seed heads. I'd rather have seed heads than have to go through and mow multiple rows because all we're growing is weeds in our field. So that's the biggest thing to remember. Don't let others get you down when you're rotational grazing, because they will definitely tell you that it's crazy and a waste of time. But everything that I have proves that this is the right way to raise animals. I mean, just look at it. They're happy and healthy and they're getting what they want. So why would you not want to do that? So if you like learning about rotational grazing, seeing the results, the before and afters, the different methods, the different tools that we use to do this, please subscribe to the channel. That's our goal here on Dusty Ridge Farms, is we want to show other people how we're doing this. 1, so they can see animals being raised properly, and 2, so that way if they're wanting to do this, they can have some experience to draw off of. This is mainly the way that I learned how to do this, was through YouTube videos. A lot of the information that I'm going to put out, though, it was really hard to find. So that's what I'm trying to target, is exactly how to do it and what tools to use. There's a lot of people that talk about it, but they don't give you all those details. I'm not an expert on the details. I'm just telling you this is what works on my farm here. So if it works here, it should be able to work for you, or at least be adaptable to try to figure out some sort of in-between. I do appreciate everybody taking the time to watch these videos. If you like learning, please subscribe to the channel. That's what we're all about here, is trying to learn how to raise animals the healthiest way possible and eventually turn them into healthy meat for myself and my community. And as always, thank you for watching.